Okay. All right, I'd like to welcome everybody to the call. This is Fast Addiction Recovery. I'm Dr. Will Horton, and we'll be talking a little bit about a home treatment option that's available today. But let's talk a little bit about recovery in general. I like to say some of the secrets about recovery. One is, why do 90% of the people fail, right? Why do so many give up? I mean, this is what happens when you look at traditional treatment programs, right? Success rates maybe 10%. Some of the fancy treatment centers say it's a lot higher, but their metrics are skewed, as they would say in the business. Excuse the office behind me. Why do so many people give up? Well, if it's a low treatment success, and then you see a lot of people fail, it breathes in that idea that this is what happens. Also, why is there usually only one treatment option? Actually, maybe two, which is, like a detox where you go into treatment for 21, 28 days, and then you come out and maybe go to AA. In fact, some of the treatment centers, they just dry you out, feed you real good, and then send you to AA meetings. So really, an AA works, but why do some people sober up and others not? That's the question that really got me. Why do some people make it, whether they go to treatment or just go into an AA meeting or just go to therapy or whatever they do? Why do some make it and some don't? Well, let's start with, it's no secret that alcohol and drug abuse is the number one cause of divorce. A lot of people might be listening to this later. If your marriage is on the rocks and you're drinking or drugging, well, guess what? That can happen. It's the #1 cause of the prison population. People, not just people think of DUIs or drug arrests, but it's the things you do under the influence, just over the, things like that, having a few drinks. I mean, there's just this morning or yesterday, I was reading about, was a big name sports celebrity at the Super Bowl. I think it was 4 or 5 a.m. He got arrested for solicitation, but he was also under the influence, right? So public intox with that. Well, if he hadn't been drinking, I don't know if the second would have happened, as they say, right? It costs billions of dollars. I think the estimate was 559. It goes up all the time. When you look at the homeless population across the country, it says it's the #1 cause of the homeless population. With mental illness, that's the truth, right? It really is. It's the majority of auto deaths. But we must remember most addicts are highly functional. But it says almost every family is touched by the problem. I would say every family, if not immediate, like cousins, and you reach out, right? But this is a secret. Did you know that 70% of the alcohol is consumed by about 10% of the people that drink? So at any given time, a lot of people don't drink. Estimates are about 25% or more of the adult population. They don't drink for a lot of reasons, maybe health, vitality, religion, whatever. I mean, small subset will be they're in recovery, so that's a smaller subset. But of the people that drink, a small amount drink most of the alcohol. Now, this is also true for all the other drugs. Marijuana, most of the marijuana is smoked by a small percentage of people that smoke marijuana, right? And we must remember, though, that alcohol kills more people than all other drugs combined. When you take in the DUIs and alcohol withdrawals, they're the most dangerous. But we have to also realize there's a social stigma about not drinking in this country, in a lot of countries. When you tell people you're not drinking, oh, way on the wagon, yada, 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 there's some stigma to it, whatever it happens to be. Again, just earlier in the week, it was announced another big sports celebrity entered rehab, and they're making a big deal of it. Well, now that's going to follow him forever, which that'll come up because he went into rehab. And rehab's great, but there's some things. We got to realize that pain pills are a huge problem. When I went back and ran a treatment center, one of the things I noticed was how much more pain pills has escalated in the last 10 years. And there was a lot of people that had long-term recovery from alcohol or other drugs that were back in rehab because they started taking pain pills. Now, with that, there's a rapid escalation in heroin use. Why? I mean, it was only a couple years ago that Philip Seymour Hoffman OD'd of heroin. Why? Well, he was on pain pills, and then he got on heroin because it was cheaper and easier to get. And he was sober a long time from alcohol. And then, I don't know what happened. I think he got hurt on a set or something, got pain pills, and then he was off to the races, and he got on heroin. And then there's other drugs of abuse, not just marijuana too, but, crack cocaine, crystal meth, it goes on and on. These cost an extra $180 to $200 billion a year. But now, why people do not seek help, I'm sorry, I cut that off. There's the stigma of having the problem. There's work issues, How do you take 21 to 28 days off from work and then not have everybody know, right? And then again, if you take time off from work to go into treatment, even though they encourage it now, 6 months later, you've actually got a physical cold, you got the flu, you call off. Oh, is he drinking or drugging again, right? Then there's government issues and insurance issues. I know this one's me. I'd been sober, I don't know, over a decade, and I went to get life insurance. And I don't know why, but I checked yes, I was hospitalized. They asked what for. I said that. Well, one insurance company wouldn't cover me, and another one wanted to charge an extra rider because I'd been through alcohol treatment. Now, it's interesting, been sober a decade. Interesting, right? Here in Florida, when I was getting a license for a new car, plate for a new car, they still ask the question, have you ever been treated for mental illness or substance abuse issues, right? I don't know what would happen if you said yes, right? I don't know. Even if they still give you your license, I would wonder, will it come up, right? Things like that. And of course, the other thing with insurance, once you're treated, it can follow you, right? Well, now we have the Affordable Care Act, which is supposed to get rid of this, but pre-existing conditions still are out there, right? Then there's family issues, marriage issues, parent-child issues, all the things that happen when you have substance abuse issues. Time away from work or family. If you're going to go get help, but you got to take 21, 28 days away, even if you got great insurance and that's paid for, you lose income. You're away from your family. It leaves the other person there to control, the kids and the household and everything else. And then you realize there's a low success rate. So even when you go into treatment, it's terrible, right? And then there's no treatment opportunities. There's not that many treatment centers. There's more opening, it seems, but they're hard to get into, especially depending on the kind. If you got great insurance or you're wealthy enough to go to one of the real fancy ones, great. But there's not that many opportunities. And then there's the slow pace of recovery, So here's what people try. First of all, they try to white knuckle it, right? Then they use self-willpower, which is kind of like, well, I just won't drink. They go to AA. Now, AA works if it's understood right and implemented into a recovery program. Then maybe they go to therapy. Might work, might not. They might try switching drugs. I'm not going to drink whiskey. I'm only going to drink beer. I'm only going to drink natural wines. I'm only going to do this. I won't drink till, I'll only have like one glass of wine after 5 o'clock, right? Well, I got to tell you, it's not your fault that these things fail, right? Because why it doesn't work. Addiction is a brain-based issue. And with the brain-based issue, there's subconscious learning and behavior that have to be taken into account, right? There's social pressures, right? Why you're not drinking. You can have one, right? You might have a drink because, you don't want people to know, right? There's family pressure. If you're from a family of substance abusers, this is going to be an issue, right? There could be denial, your denial, family denial, other kinds of denial, right? It's expensive to go get help sometimes if you go into treatment. Even if you got great insurance, there might be a copay, right? Then there's the belief that it's hard, that recovery's hard. And again, it's not your fault why these things don't work. It's kind of like this. The way your mind works is it's kind of like a iceberg, that most of your mind is underneath the surface. It's called your subconscious mind, where all the really good things happen. It's where your attitudes, beliefs, the real behavior change happens. Your emotions are underneath the surface. But your conscious mind, the things on the top, is where your analytical, rational mind is, short-term memory. It's also why willpower won't work, because it's a conscious effort. But you can't get down to the subconscious mind because this thing called the critical factors, usually your emotions, will reject any ideas that might challenge you. I'm not an addict. I'm not an alcoholic. So you won't even consider treatment, right? Or There's only one way to do it, right? There's only one way to do it, right? So it's kind of interesting, right? But finally, there's a solution. And you can do this with no time away from work or family. It's kind of interesting. There was just a study released, and it had to do with back in the 70s or 80s. They used to show this ad. And what the ad was, it showed a rat in a cage, right? And had water, water, food, and all that, and a little bit of water bottle with cocaine. And it said there's only one drug that when, given like to this animal, it will not drink, not eat. It'll do the drug till it dies. Okay, fine. So they declared that war. That's when the war on drugs really picked up. And they did this with some other drugs. But what's interesting, some other psychologists looked at it then and looked at it later, just recently again, where, well, first of all, they noticed the rat was alone in a cage with nothing else to do. There's food, water, and the cocaine or the alcohol, depending on what drug they were testing, right? Well, it was bored. It was not happy. It wasn't a happy rat, right? But when they took that rat out and put it in a healthy environment with other rats, things to do, toys, food, most of the rats would not go back to the drugs or the alcohol. Fascinating. If they were happy rats, they didn't want to go back. They didn't relapse, even if it was right there, which flies in the face of some of the stuff they say about recovery, about addictions, right? Because if you're not happy, this doesn't matter where you're at, alone or with people. If you don't fix that issue and you don't fix it where you're at, you're basically screwed, right? So you go to a 28-day treatment program, not drink. First of all, there's no place to drink or drug there, and also you're pampered, you're paid attention to all the things that happen. Great. But then you come out of treatment. You go back home, back to work where the problem is, and boom, you relapse, right? I can't tell you how many times I've seen that, right? So there's this solution. There's no time away from work or family. Get better where you're at, right? You have to plant where you have to grow where you're planted, right? And you're not diagnosed, right, by government or insurance, so it won't chase you around. If you work for the federal government, you have a security clearance, you go into treatment, your security clearance is at risk, if not lost, right? Now, the great thing about this solution, it can be used with 12-step programs or without it. Depends what you want. I call it's fast addiction recovery. And here's why it's different than anything else. The history, training, and real-world experience. I ran treatment centers, inpatient, outpatient. I was the director of a psychological unit, at a Florida prison. I've had 30 years real-world experience. I've trained hundreds of people on working with addictions and thousands of clients with addiction. So if you don't get this, you miss out on being able to get clean and sober. Now, if you went to inpatient treatment, estimates are it's around $30,000 on average. Some are in the hundreds of thousands of dollars, the real plush ones. Some are cheaper, and there's a few government programs if you can get into them. The waiting list is long, right? So let's say $30,000. But what about the income you lose when you go to treatment? That 21 to 28 days, right? And then there's the time away from family. You might miss birthdays, anniversaries, parties. Also, the stress it puts on the person still at home. Right? We like to say that, when you're an addict, you only hurt yourself. That's not true. You hurt everyone around you. And then even when you go into treatment, it has repercussions for all the other people. But now you can recover at home, and it's private. So the insurance and government and your work do not need to know. It's fast because your subconscious mind operates fast. You make decisions fast at the subconscious level. You can change, as one book says, in the blink of an eye, in the twinkling of an eye. Right? There's no time away. You or if it's a family member you're looking at for this program, they can keep working. They can stay in the system, right? There's no diagnosis. So you're not diagnosed with alcoholism or drug addiction, which can follow you, right? Because many people would argue alcoholism, drug addiction is a diagnosis of non-recovery, right? So even if you're clean and sober, it's something in your past, which could, if you go to get health insurance, life insurance, government security clearance, could come back, right? There's no stigma, where were you for 28 days? Where were you for 21 days? So let's say it would cost $30,000 to go to treatment. This home option is only $497. Now, I'm doing this because when I got exposed to the techniques and the technologies within this to change at the subconscious level. Now, I chose to do it with the 12-step program. Many people do. Also, it'll make you comfortable with the 12-step program if you're not already, because many people don't really understand the 12-step program. It's misunderstood. It was meant to be a bridge back to normal living. It was never really intended to be a life in and of itself. That's fine if it becomes part of your identity and that's what you want, but it's meant to give you back your life. It's not meant to replace it. So, but if you understand that, and you also understand the limits of what the 12-step program is, it will sober you up. If you're not happy, well, it can help dry you out. And we see this a lot in the 12-step program. People get cleaned up, 60, 90 days, 3 months, 6 months. But guess what? If they don't learn how to be happy with themselves, much like those rats in the cage, they're going to go back to the drugs or the alcohol because it's forever around us, right? So this program helps you get better where you're at. And it's based on doing it at home with videos and audios and some reading. So without this recovery program, you have missed opportunity. Now's the best time to sober up. Lost income, because you're not making your best if you're under the influence, right, of anything. There's no impact on your family, on society, right? You're not being the person you really want to be. Most addicts want to contribute to society, to their family, to their art, to whatever it is that they do. But there's no impact because it's messing them up, right? You suffer. You continue to suffer. If nothing changes, nothing changes. But if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired, this is the program you can use to jumpstart it. And then, of course, there's all the family pain because you got drunk and missed an anniversary or a party or some other thing, right? So look at all the family pain. We like to think we don't hurt others. We hurt everyone. You see it in the tears of your family members. So with this program, you're comfortable with recovery. You get a new attitude and a better life. You get the positive impact on your family, on your work, on your society, everything. You get the life that you deserve. And it's done at home. And it's not your fault. Because now also the whole recovery world has become an industry. And it's there. A lot of it is to protect itself, right? They don't adapt well. Any bureaucracy doesn't adapt to change well. It's why treatment has not changed in 50 years. If you go into treatment, they dry you out. They give you vitamins. Now they've added maybe some exercise and some stuff, massage and that. But it's still basically minimal therapy, go to AA meetings. That's wonderful, but it hasn't changed. And I really started thinking about this. And my friend that was a doctor got me to do it. Because like he said, in medicine, if they were still doing the same treatments they were doing in the 1950s, I don't think anybody would be happy. I don't think you want to go to your heart doctor and he goes, well, I learned this in 1953 and we're going to keep doing it. No, we have new technology. And I'm going to constantly be updating this program. It's downloadable. You can do it instantly. The moment you get it, you can join and you can have fun with it. So if you're sick and tired of being sick and tired and you're really ready to change and do the things that you want to do, this is the time. There's no need to continue suffering. The suffering you have, only you know what it is. And it might be a family member, but if it's there, they might start doing it. You can download this program and do it instantly. It's videos, it's audios that you can do in the privacy of your own home. 21 audio or 15 audio tapes that I'll be adding to 2 videos that teaches you a lot about what we're talking about in a little bit more detail. And so if you're interested, go to www.fastaddictionrecovery.com and there's a little button that says quit using today. Click on it, order it, gets you into the site, and you can begin to get better now. You don't have to wait. God wants you to be happy, joyous, and free. This program, this technology saved my life. I was struggling. I was in and out of detox so often, they said you ought to get a job here. And so once I really did start to sober up, I did. That's how I became an alcohol and drug counselor. It gave me my life back. I became a psychologist. I've written books. I've traveled the world doing what I do. And then with this, I learned the NLP and the hypnosis, which I incorporated into it. That's what really set my trajectory of recovery into the stratosphere. I've done things I never dreamed possible. And I see people go into recovery 12-step programs and other things and kind of stay stagnant. They might dry out, but they're still miserable. They're that unhappy rat waiting to go back. No, I want you to be happy, joyous, and free. This is what I want. This is why I want you to do it. So go ahead and go to fastaddictionrecovery.com. You'll see the little stop using today. Click on that. There's some stuff you can read. You can order the program, and it's instantly downloadable. So I'd like to thank you for joining me on this call. I wish you the best, and have a great